From the class of 2014, Donna Malden is representing Bob Malden. Mr. Bill Watts. Representing the induction class of 2015, Mr. Jesse Banner Jr. is representing his father, Jesse Banner Sr. Representing Mr. Alden Cofield is LaDonna Cofield Foster. Shante Kingston Wrigley. Representing Martin Teeny Lafferty is Greg Lafferty. Mr. Harry Mills. From the induction class of 2016, Johnny Cartner is representing his mother, Betty Bean Cartner. Lloyd Anderson Dink Jordan. Just. Richard Leffler. David Franklin Dink Whitehouse. There you go. From the class of 2017, David Caldwell. Doris Bromley Cobb. From 2014 also, Mr. Richard Labish. Ronald Pear. Chris Tucker. Iris Bromley Walker. Mr. Benny Moose. These are members of our current classes for the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame.
Now we'll ask Harry to lead us in a word of prayer.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, it is an honor to be here tonight. And Lord, I just praise you and thank you for all that you've done in the lives of these athletes and contributors and coaches. Lord, it was your gift to them. They had the ability to perform so well on the field, in the athletic arena, and we just praise you for that. Now, Lord, as we go through this afternoon, Lord, I pray, God, that you'll be with each person sitting in this room, Lord, that you'll just open their heart to hear the stories that is about to unfold. And Lord, we pray, God, that each person that comes here understands the abilities that they have came from you. And we just thank you for that. Lord, I pray for our country right now, Lord. We're going through a rough time. And Lord, I ask God that you just unite us both ways. Lord, just draw us closer to you and draw us closer as a nation. And Lord, I just ask God that when we fail you in any way, that we come to you and repent and ask for forgiveness. And we know, God, that you hear our prayers. Lord, we pray this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Amen.
I do not know who next. I don't have a clue. Actually, I thought it was Ashley, but I didn't want to stick my foot in the mouth. But Ashley will talk about the members of the committee and also the people that have really chipped in and made this very possible each and every year. Ashley?
Good evening, y'all. Good evening. Hi. Thank y'all so much for being here. I just want to take a very brief moment and pull up my cheat sheet, so bear with me just 1 second. I'm here tonight to thank all of the folks who have donated to the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame or have given donations in honor of folks. And our 2018 sponsors, I believe they're right over my head, they're also on your programs. We have Ben Minot Family of Dealerships, Cabarrus Hosiery Distribution, F&M Bank, Industrial Battery and Charger, Historic Cabarrus Association, Morrison Brothers Building, Tapco Polymers Incorporated, Whitaker Tire, Wyden House Companies, and Wilkinson Funeral Home. If you'll all give a round of applause and thanks to our sponsors. I would also like to take this moment to thank the Boys and Girls Club for all that they have done for us, letting us have our meetings here throughout the year, and of course for letting us host this amazing event here every year. It has always been just a pleasure to have it here, and it seems right to have it here. I'm going to ask Mark Tracy to come up here and join me. And the Sports Hall of Fame would like to thank the Boys and Girls Club, and we are presenting Mark Tracy with a check to the Boys and Girls Club this evening. So if you'll give a round of applause to the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. It is an absolute pleasure to have you all here. Thank you.
Ashley's pretty modest. All the things you see on the wall here, big pictures, she's collected them, and we're filling up the gymnasium here of former athletes. So if you've got a picture that she could use, and she'll be glad to use it at the time of the induction next year. So keep that in mind. Now I would like to bring Scott to the podium, and he's going to talk about two of our favorite athletes of the past.
Good evening. We're here to remember the passing of two of our members from this last time of the induction. Mr. Gene Berman passed away on November 4th, 2017. He was 1946 Hartsel graduate, best known as an all-around athlete, football, basketball, baseball, and especially baseball. In the spring of 45, Gene started playing professional ball for Kingsport, Tennessee, but returned to graduate from high school. His professional career spanned 1945 to 1962 with several clubs. The most notable being the Washington Senators, where he played shortstop. He was also manager of the Charlotte Hornets. After baseball, Gene was self-employed and operated a community general store and gas station, which was a favorite meeting place for the people of the community. He and his wife, Leona, had raised 3 children. Our second member to pass away was Larry Honeycutt. Passed away June 4th, 2018. Played football 3 years, co-captain, baseball 4 years, basketball 4 years, all conference all 3 years, sports all 3 sports. Played American Legion ball 2 years. Graduated from Morrison College in 1964, was all-conference football 64 and also All-American. And Morrison was also a member of Sports Hall of Fame in Morrison. He coached and taught in Cabarrus County Schools since 1965. I was fortunate to be one of Larry's first students in 65. The only pattern I got 12 years of school came from the hands of Larry Honeycutt. Never forget it. A member of St. John's Lutheran Church, he sponsored the Mount Pleasant Elementary School Christmas event, he and his wife, to assist students at the meeting, and continues to this day. He's been an outstanding citizen of Cabarrus County, and he's also known as the fastest legs in Cabarrus County during his time. This time I ask her, let's have a moment of silence in memory of Gene and Larry. Thank you.
That sort of reminds me that about Honeycutt being inducted into the Hall of Fame in college. Recently at Lenore Ryan University, Benny Moose was inducted this year, and I think that should get for a nice round of applause. Also, I'd like to introduce a committee member, and these committee members are just fantastic. But Mr. Fleming is going to introduce each and every one of them.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We're so thankful to see such a beautiful crowd and a large crowd tonight. And I hope you enjoy yourself, and I hope you are not too long. I would like to take a few minutes to introduce to you the committee members of the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame. Each of these hard-working folks brings their experience and their unique talents to the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame. But equally as important, each believes in and is focused on the success and growth of the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame. If I call your name, please stand and wave your hand so they can see who you are. Mr. William Andy Andrews, Vice Chairman. Native of Cabarrus County, 1956 graduate of Concord High School. Spent 43 years in the banking industry and retired in 2003. Jimmy Alton. Most of you know him as basketball officiating. He didn't bring his whistle, so I'm glad of that. He's the treasurer of the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame. Also Cabarrus County native and 1961 graduate of Hartselle High School. Also retired from banking after 37 years of service. Mr. Alton, he's in the back. Scott Barrington, a 1970 graduate of Mount Pleasant High School. Scott spent 32 years in teaching, coaching, and focusing on sports medicine for 16 years. Presently at Carolina's Medical and is manager of athletic training service. Thank you. Gary Clark, 1962 graduate of A.O. Brown High School, where he won the Open CH Award in his senior year in both baseball and football. Spent over 2 years active doing his duty in the U.S. Army and 21 years in the Army Reserve, where he retired as Lieutenant Colonel. Eric spent many years in the trucking industry. He is a graduate of Wingate University. And yours truly, graduate of Morganton Olive Hill High School. I spent 32 years in teaching and coaching baseball, basketball, and football at both Logan High School and Concord Middle School. Thank you. Gene Burke, a Raleigh resident and a native of Cabarrus County. Gene graduated from Concord High School in 1959. He is a nationally known photographer and has won over 200 awards for his work. If you want to see some extraordinary wildlife photos, check out his website at geneverphotography.com. He has the initial induction ceremony in 2011. Tim Burr. In the back. Cabarrus County native, Tim graduated from Central Cabarrus High School in 1977, where he played football, baseball, and basketball, and was all-conference in football and baseball. He also played 2 years of semi-pro football with the Carolina Cardinals. Tim was presently a member of the Cabarrus County Board of Education. Lafayette, Georgia. Some of you, a little older than I am, but if you remember in 1976, and the years before then, he was one of the most outstanding running guys Concord has ever seen. Lafayette was an outstanding track and field athlete and basketball player for the Spiders. He is a graduate of Appalachian State University and was the first track and field All-American. He has also been inducted into the Appalachian State Athletic Hall of Fame. Thank you. Laney is a 1969 graduate of A.O. Brown High School and Appalachian State University. If anyone on this committee reads green, it's down. He is a A.L. Brown die-hard guy. In addition to trimming and painting the Silverwater at Memorial Stadium, Lane also served as the director of the Wonder Football Radio Association. Thank you. Tony McClamrod, who we have already met. Please stand, Tony. Tony is the founder and chairman of the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame. He is a 1958 graduate of Concord High School and a 1962 graduate of the Ryan University, where he is a member of the university's Football Hall of Fame. Playing tailback, he was a member of the Ryan's national championship team in 1960. Thank you. Next is Harry Mills. You've heard him doing that beautiful prayer. And if you've never been touched, we hear that about once a month. If you haven't been saved, you will be saved. A 1961 graduate of L. Brown High School and a member of the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame, Harry was awarded the Owen C. H. Hill Award in baseball his senior year. Harry has been playing baseball and softball his entire life and competing at the highest level in softball. He is in several softball Hall of Fames and been selected to the All-World and All-American teams over 40 years. That boy has been playing some ball. John Patterson. Where's John here? Over here. Okay. John is a 1961 graduate of Concord High School, where he played and lettered in baseball, basketball, football, and golf, and was Concord High's first four-letter athlete in a single year. He was always excellent in golf and has won over 50 amateur golf tournaments. Thank you, John. Ashley Probst, the young lady that you just saw and heard a few minutes ago, who's responsible for all these pictures on the wall. Ashley is a native of Marshall, North Carolina, and is presently executive director of the Cabarrus Historical Association. Historic Cabarrus, which fits right in with one of our goals and objectives. She joined the Cabarrus County Hall of Fame committee last year and has been a valuable addition to this committee. Ashley designed the great posters you see displayed on the wall. Thank you very much, Ashley. Mark Tracy. Mark here? Okay, he's in the back, but Ashley. Mark is a 2000 graduate of Mount Pleasant High School where he played football and baseball. He received his graduate degree from the University of Tennessee and is unit director of the Cabarrus County Boys and Girls Club, where he oversees the after-school program, summer programs, and activities. Thank you. Brian Tyson. Brian is a 1985 graduate of Northwest Cabarrus High School, where he played football and baseball. He has been a teacher for 23 years, coached at both Central Cabarrus and Mount Pleasant. Brian is president and director of athletics for Cabarrus County Schools. Thank you, Brian. And Miss Betty Ladish. Ladish, over here to your right. If you need catering and some of the best, call Betty. She is ready. Betty is serving as our hospitality chairperson this year and is assisted by many of her board members. Thank you, Betty. Miss Betty McCloud, will you please stand? Betty has again served as committee assistant and has been chiefly responsible for developing and having produced tonight's program and the flags and the medallions being presented to our inductees. They will call her a right-hand man and she is stuck by others with tremendous. Thanks very much.
I would tell you this is a great committee. They've done so many good things, and believe me, I've sort of been dragging my left leg most of the last 2 years, and I was told by Andy Andrews that he's been dragging now. So this committee has just been great. Just the people that Mr. Fleming's introduced, they're just fantastic. They've done such a terrific job, and I'm just so proud of them. And you can see by the crowd here that they've done a great job. Now, I know that a lot of you have been anxious to hear this guy, and I am as well, but we found this guy after we inducted him in the Hall of Fame a few years ago, and he he's been here so long as a student athlete, as a teacher, coach. So he has got, I know after about the third year that I got involved with this, I ran out of people that I saw play football, basketball, and baseball. But Easy has been here. He knows these candidates, and you are in for a really outstanding program. And I hope you enjoy it. And I will introduce Easy Smith.
Before I begin, I appreciate Tony offering that. I've got to do something. Don't anybody take offense to this. Mr. Dingle, stand up, please. You guys know my voice is big enough, and there was a correction I'm going to make. This is Mr. Dean Whitehouse, class of 2014. Let's give him a big round. So I want to make that clear. I'm afraid I'm going to be somebody introduced one day. It's an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. Before I begin, Mark, if you need to put the camera over here so you get close-ups of me, because this is going to be on, you know, can you get me from here? Okay?
I got a long lens.
I like it from the front. I look a little better from the front. It's such an honor and privilege to be here. I'd like to thank the Boys and Girls Club, their staff, for setting this wonderful venue for us and giving us the opportunity to come and share tonight and enjoy it. I want everybody to look at your watch. That's got a watch, you've got a phone, turn your phones down and silent. It is 5:32, so don't say I started at 5 o'clock. There's 32 minutes before I got to get up here and speak. So I'm not going to be accused tonight of being here for 3 hours when I'm only going to be here 2 hours and 28 minutes. Okay? But it gives me great pleasure to come in. I appreciate Betty and her staff and the food that we will enjoy after. And I appreciate the many, many people that go into, especially the nominating committee, the selection committee, and the people that decide who comes into the Hall of Fame so that we can go back and reminisce and enjoy the accolades of those from the past. 9 years ago, actually, Tony Cabarrus called me with an idea about starting the Cabarrus County Hall of Fame. And I want us tonight to give him the accolades and the tribute that he deserved. It was his brainchild. It was his foundation that brings us here tonight. The first night we had a few and then a few more. Look at this gym. This place is almost packed. You know, I'm thinking we may have to get some extra chairs. But please give Tony McClamont, our founder, a big hand. Without him, this would still only be a dream. 8 years ago, we began the process of having a Hall of Fame in Cabarrus County. And that first class set the tone for some of the greatest athletes to ever grace the field in Cabarrus County. You know, a lot of times when you think of Cabarrus County, you only think of maybe Concord and Central Cabarrus, Northwest, Mount Pleasant, but it includes Annapolis, Wyncoll, Odell, Harrisburg. It includes so many areas. It included Carver and Logan high schools. Some of the schools that have been closed now. But we are at the focal point of our lives where we need to celebrate everybody and every person. And I'm a firm believer that we should highlight and take time to do this. Now, I'm going to give you a little footnote. Anybody that knows me knows I've talked a long time. I'm not going to try not to do it, but what I want you to understand is, and if I get emotional, you guys know me, know how I am. When you listen to these inductees speak, it may be one of the last times, just like Gene and Larry. God bless them, I know them personally. Some of those, like Coach Ford and Coach Alley and others, Coach Cofield and Coach Banner, that have passed on, this may be the last opportunity we get to hear them. So sit on your bottoms and enjoy it. And if you got to go get a drink of water and get you a bathroom and get yourself back. Everybody got it? That's the way the coach is going to run the program. 2 years ago, or last year, we began to enter teams. So this year, we're going to start the program with highlighting one of the best baseball teams in the history of Cabarrus County. And if you have your program, you're welcome to turn to it. We're going to begin tonight with the induction of the 1946 Annapolis Post 115 American Legion baseball team. In 1946, this post, 115, became the first team to win the North Carolina American Legion State Championship baseball tournament. They advanced to the Southeast Regional Tournament and won that championship and moved on to the sectional. At the end of the year, their record was 28-6. To give you a little bit of a historical background on them, they were coached by an ex-professional player named Marvin Watts and the A.L. Brown High School baseball coach, Buck McCarn. Post 151 began with 9 exhibition games. And then after that, they reduced the roster down to 14 players, and they began to play the rest of the season. They had great pitching. They had 4 great pitchers. They had fielding. They had speed. They could run the bases. Their hitters hit for power. Back then, and I don't know how many people watched the baseball game last night. I watched it through inning 12, and I fell out. But I remember the days when I was a kid, when you were Little League, you pitched 6 innings. When you were high school, you pitched 7 innings. When you went to college, you pitched 9 innings, and all the pros pitched 9. Man, they got 14 different relievers. They got one, he'll come in the 3rd inning. He's called the early reliever, the middle reliever, the late reliever, and then the extra reliever. Back then, guess what? Those guys pitched 9 innings. No matter what, they pitched, finished the game, and batted. The regular season consisted of 14 games, and they ended up the regular season 11-3. They were tied with Salisbury for 2nd place, so they had to have a playoff. They won the playoff, so this put them in the Central District Tournament. They defeated High Point, a best 2 out of 3, and they brought their record to 14-3. In that tournament final, they played Lexington and beat them 4 straight games for an overall record of 18-4. Post 115 advanced to the Legion State Tournament that we know today that's held in Shelby. The semifinals were with a team from Mecklenburg County. They won 3 straight. Then they advanced to a best-of-4 series against Red Springs. At the Red Springs game, they won 4 straight games, making their record 25-4. Kannapolis Post 115 advanced to the Southeastern Regional Tournament in Shelby. It was a double elimination tournament. And there was another tournament held in Florence, South Carolina. So they had 4 teams here and 4 teams there. In the one Kannapolis was in, they had teams from Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, and North Carolina. Down in Florence, they had South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. Kannapolis won their bracket along with Memphis, Tennessee. So they advanced to the finals. Kannapolis won the game 7-6, then defeated Norfolk, Virginia, and they played Memphis for the regional championship, which they won. And that made them 28-4. Now they move along in their bracket, along with Thompson, Georgia, to the Southeast Regionals with New Orleans. They played the first game against New Orleans and they lost. But they only lost 7-6, so it gave them some insight that hopefully we can win the next one and get them again. They lost to Thompson, Georgia 2-1, so 2 of their losses were about 1 run each. And these 2 losses eliminated them, but it gave them a 28-6 record for the season. They brought home the North Carolina American Legion State Baseball Championship and also the Southeastern Regional State Championship. First time a team from Kannapolis or Cabarrus County ever did that. Tonight, it is my honor to induct the 1946 American Legion State Baseball Champions into our Cabarrus County Hall of Fame. I'm going to read the names, and if any of them are with us tonight, I would ask that you please work your way forward. Let us present you with a certificate or a family member. And let's hold our applause till we get the entire team up, okay? Everybody good? Here we go. Starting, Bill Bowles, Bobby Cross, Don Cross, Harold Inslee, Perry Fields, H.L. Fink, Paul Petrie, Tommy Ryder, Clarence Stewart, Lorraine Templeton, Bud Thomas, Herman Upright, Howard Wiest, Bill Wilhelm, the bat boy was Huff Eckert, and Little Fields was the secondary bat boy. The coach was Marvin Watts and Buck McKern. The Legion commander was Hugh Alexander. Harry Sifford was the athletic director for Post 115, and J.C. Harmon was the assistant. Do we have any of those members here tonight? Or any representative? Thank you for coming forward. He told me to tell y'all he's Herman Upright's nephew. He wasn't on that 46 thing. But I'm telling you what, if I could have walked up here and been in 1946, I would have said, yeah. Thank you again for that group, and let's one more time give them a good round of applause. The second area that we will be doing is we represent the posthumously families, the members that have passed on before their inductions. The first one we will begin with as a Hall of Fame inductee for the year 2018 is Donald Eugene Argo. Donald was a 1953 graduate of A.L. Brown High School, where he was outstanding in football and baseball from 1951 through 1954. His first year in 1951, he played fullback. His second year in 1952, they moved him to offensive and defensive tackle. Coach Watts, Coach Harden, we'd have parents all over us today if we took one from fullback to defensive or offensive line. They'd be, what are you doing? You're ruining my kid. Don was willing to do what was ever best for the team. Because of his move, he was responsible in part for that team going undefeated in 1952, and he was the co-captain of the football team. During his senior year of 53 and 54, he was the first player from J.W. Cannon and A.L. Brown High School, as we know, that came together to become All-South Piedmont Conference, All-State in football by the Charlotte Observer, All-State, All-Prep, selected to play in the North Carolina Shrine Bowl and the North Carolina East-West game. That's a phenomenal thing for anybody that follows football. Not only was he a great football player, he was an outstanding baseball player for the A.L. Brown baseball team. They won in 1954 the South Piedmont Conference Championship, and in the old days, a lot of us were associated with the Western North Carolina High School Athletic Association, which was separate from the State of North Carolina Association. And A.L. Brown won the state championship in 1954. He later, after graduation, attended North Carolina State University for 2 years before he entered the United States Army and served our country. He owned and operated Argo & Sons Electric Company and U-Cart Concrete. He married Nancy Liss Argo, and they had 3 sons, Kirk, Todd, and Craig. On March the 24th of 2008, Don passed away. He was a legacy, not only in the Kannapolis community, but also in Cabarrus County. It gives me a great honor to announce the selection of Don Argo into the class of 2018 Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame, and to accept that on his behalf and speak is his son, Craig. Craig, would you please come forward?
Wisdom, I was going to read that. I'd like to thank the Hall. And this is, it reminds me of my favorite Andy Griffith episode. This is big, Andy. This is big. Thank you.
Now, just because Craig didn't take his 3 minutes, don't mean all y'all get to add a minute to go. I get to add a minute to mine. Our next inductee for the class of 2018 Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame is William Fred Chapman. A 1934 J.W. Cannon School graduate, he was an outstanding athlete in football, basketball, and baseball from 1930 through 1934. In 1932, J.W. Cannon High School joined the South Piedmont Conference. Fred was chosen as the team captain. He was the star running back at the end and the most valuable player for them. During the course of 1932 and 33, he was selected All Piedmont Conference. He also played basketball, where he was a star forward on the basketball team and team captain in 1934. Not to be excluded, he was a baseball player, and you can imagine because he was such a good athlete, he played shortstop on the baseball team and made all-conference on the baseball team for 1934. He left high school in the spring of his senior year in 1934 so he could attend Wingate Junior College at that time, which is now Wingate University. He signed a professional baseball contract with the Washington Senators in 1935. He played minor league baseball for 14 seasons, associated with organizations such as Washington, Philadelphia, Cleveland, and Boston. This is staggering. 14 years, he played 1,568 games. In those games, he had 1,603 hits, which means, if you round that off, he had about a hit every game. You know, he was kind of like Jackie Robinson, Joe DiMaggio, those kind of guys. That was the kind of player he was. And his batting average was .279. That was phenomenal during that time period. He played Major League Baseball with the Philadelphia Athletics 1939, 1940, and 41. He served in the United States Navy during World War II from 42 through 46, which interrupted his baseball career and probably cost him some years there. From 1949 through 53, he coached and managed several Class D programs around the state of North Carolina. And then he coached the Kannapolis Post 115 American Legion team, 54, 55, and 56. He worked as a foreman in the dye department at Cannon Mills from 54 through 1983. He was married to Miss Rosa Ella Quinn Chapman, and they had a daughter, Jane Lynn, and son, William Fred Jr. On March the 27th of 1997, at the age of 80, Fred passed away. Tonight, it is my honor to introduce into the selections of the 2018 Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame, William Fred Chapman, and to receive this honor is his son, Fred Jr. Please come forward.
Actually, some of the things you said, were kind of news to me. He was not the kind of person who ever had anything to say about his time playing ball. As far as he was concerned, it was just a job. And other people asked him about it. I asked him about it, and that's about the only way I ever learned, because it never occurred to him that it was anything special. The seminal event in his life was World War II. Like you said, he came along. My mother and father got married on December 6, 1941. The next morning, he woke up and found out that his career was going to be something else other than playing ball. He spoke with Connie Mack and advised him to join the Navy, which he did. And he played. He was a happy guy. He always considered himself lucky. He didn't consider that a loss, that he wound up losing the years that he might have been able to play some ball. He was 25 at that time. The first few years of the war, they went around the country. They had special units, and they had special teams that were made up of nothing but Major League ball players. The first few years of the war, they went around to different bases, entertaining the troops. After that, people started saying that, well, these prima donnas, other people are getting shot at, that perhaps it would be good if they joined the rest of the guys. And he had no complaints. Human nature being what it is, though, the admirals and generals grabbed those players for their base teams. He wound up, after 2 years, he was given orders to report to the brutal location of Honolulu, Hawaii, and play at Pearl Harbor Naval Base. He had to have a rated job. They couldn't just be ball players anymore. His job was physical training instructor. When he showed up and reported in to his commanding officer said, "Well, Fred, I see you're a PT instructor." He said, "We really don't need any PT instructors right now." He said, "But I do have a job for you. The women's Navy personnel, the waves, I want you to take them and lead them in exercises in the morning, but I don't want you to do it on the parade grounds in Pearl Harbor here. Because if you do, these women out here in short shorts, these guys have not seen very many women in the last year, and the parade ground, if you do that on the parade grounds, all work is going to come to a halt." And so he said, want you to get those buses and you take them over to over to Waikiki Beach, and you get out on the beach and exercise them there. So that's the way he ended his last few years of the war. And when he came back, he was 46, and of course he had a bad shoulder, and there's not many uses for shortstops who can't really throw. And so he played around in the minor leagues, as you said, for a while, and then he came back and raised a family. And like I said, it was almost if it hadn't been other people who came over to our house and talked to him, I never would have even known that he played ball. So he was not that kind of guy. I thought it was just a normal life, and he'd have been very pleased. He'd been 102 this year. He'd been very pleased and appreciative of this award that you've inducted. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee, I actually have a personal experience with him as a friend of my dad and someone that was a mentor of mine. I've had several people that have got to introduce that during my lifetime as a young athlete helped build and mold me in a variety of ways. The next inductee for the class of 2018 is Johnny Pear. Johnny Pear was one of the most phenomenal people to ever grace this country. In 1938, Johnny graduated from Miami Senior High School in Florida, where he was an outstanding baseball player, specializing as a catcher for 3 years. He signed a professional contract after the 38 season and played in the Florida State League, which was the premier league going into the major leagues back in the 30s and 40s. In 1939, the Concord Weavers, who played down here at Whitfield, of the Class D North Carolina League, signed Johnny, and that's where he met and married his wife, Evelyn Staten. And I'm going to stop right there. Miss Evelyn is sitting over here tonight. Raise your hand, Miss Evelyn. Say, hey. While Johnny was playing, he called 1,672 consecutive innings here for the Weavers during the 2 years he was here. His reputation, not only for stamina and arm strength, but his fundamentals were so sound, other catchers would come and let him mentor them. In 1943, he signed a contract with the Baltimore Orioles of the AAA International League, and he was hitting .375 when he suffered a severe case of the flu, which affected him the rest of his playing career. He was out of baseball in 44 and 45, but in 1946, Johnny was named to manage the Tampa baseball team of the Florida State League, where he began his career. And he led them to the league championship as their manager. In 1947, he moved to Greenville, North Carolina, in the Coastal Plain League, and coached that team. After one season, in 1948, they returned to Concord as a family. During 1952, Little League Baseball became very prominent here in Cabarrus County and Concord. Johnny volunteered to organize the league and coach one of its teams. It made an impact on baseball here in the city of Concord and in Cabarrus County with the youth. He loved baseball, but he loved to teach it. And he loved to show the youth, not only in Concord, but in the surrounding areas, how to play the game properly. In 1953, Johnny, along with Cliff Evans, coached a Little League All-Star team that won the state title and advanced on to the Little League Regionals. He continued coaching baseball, and after playing at several different levels, he became well known for his teams of the past and those that were produced in the future. He also coached the American Legion Post 51 team in 1955 and 1957. He was a major league scout for the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago White Sox. I'm going to tell you a little short story. I promise I won't go sidebar too much. But when I was a kid growing up here at the Boys Club, I played for Donnie Whittington there. And this gym, of course, named after Donnie. Donnie said, "You are too big to be anything but a catcher." So went down to Old Hitler ride, my daddy bought me a Dale Crandall mitt that I still have today from 1961. I still got it. And we oiled it up with castor oil, and I started catching. Well, after about 5 or 6 years, my dad called Johnny. And he said, Johnny, I want you to work with Little Leagues. You don't know my dad. I am Little Leagues, and my dad was bigger than me. And Johnny began to train me as a catcher. And I think I was a pretty good catcher because I got some awards when I was in high school. And then Coach Bill Ford, in his infinite wisdom, said, I want you to move to first base. You're such a good fielder and good athlete, and I'm going to make somebody else the catcher, which was Lynn Nieberry. Lynn was an all-conference catcher also. And Johnny worked with Lynn and I. Throughout the years, Johnny Parent spent time working with kids to be better baseball players. And I can remember when he ran the gas station, we used to go down and get gas, and my dad and him would trade baseball scores. He is someone that I dearly love. He had 5 children, and then Miss Evelyn had 5 children, Ron, Carol, Philip, Janet, and Elisa. And John joins Ron, his son, as the first father-son combination in the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame. It is with my great honor and privilege to announce the induction of Mr. John Parent into our Sports Hall of Fame, and his son Ron is going to come and accept the award.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, members of the Hall of Fame, inductees, guests, and finally my mom. At this time, I'm going to pass the baton to Steve Ayers, Dr. Steve Ayers, who is pastor of McGill Baptist Church. And Steve is going to share with you a few comments which I have prepared just for this occasion. Steve.
Now you know what Baptist ministers do on Saturday night. Just a point of personal privilege. Sports teaches us so many things. It teaches us a lot about other people and ourselves. One of the things that Johnny Parent taught us is to respect the person. Can you imagine in 1939, a Catholic comes up to here and marries a Baptist girl? In 1939, North Carolina wasn't what it is today. There were very few Catholics. But Johnny taught us to respect the person and not the name. And I think that says everything that we all, in this day, need to see beyond labels and other things. Remember who we are. And that's what we learn. Mr. Chairman, committee members, members of the Hall of Fame, inductees, guests, and mother, I always tell Evelyn that she's a peach of a pear. And she truly is. On behalf of the friends and family of Johnny Parent, it is my honor and privilege to stand before you tonight to acknowledge his induction into the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame class of 2018. We, the family, stand united behind this recognition and are in agreement that it is a well-deserved achievement. Johnny Parent was born with a dose of baseball DNA in his system and has stayed a part of him his entire life. You have heard his resume and how he started at a young age. His grinding goal in life was to become a Major League Baseball player and at one of the hardest positions on the team. He was a catcher, the field general. He almost achieved his goal as he was a stand-up player for the Baltimore Orioles. On the verge of being promoted to the Chicago White Sox, he became very sick, was never able to completely recover. However, his love for the game did not diminish. One of the things he loved to do was to go to bed at night with the radio on, listening to a baseball game being played in some distant city. Most of the time, the receptions were so bad you could barely understand what the announcer was saying. But everyone knew that you better not turn off that radio. October was his favorite time of the year. After all, this is the month for the World Series. After his playing days were over, he took up coaching boys. He taught them to play and appreciate the game. The teaching of youngsters to play baseball was one of the highlights of his life, and he expressed this to many people. Johnny Pear loved baseball and all that he accomplished, especially his work with youth in the Little League Baseball. He once said that his proudest achievement was working with and teaching youngsters some of the finer arts of the game. I'm sure that he coached many of you who are present here tonight. I think that my dad's legacy in Cabarrus County is reflected in his dedication to spread the knowledge of baseball to anyone willing to give it a try. I can see this in many of your faces, and I want to thank you for remembering him with this honor. We also understand that it was the support and the encouragement of our mother, Evelyn Pear, who loved the game about as much as our father, that allowed him in the pursuit of his passion and dreams and to leave his mark on Concord baseball. Congratulations, Dad.
Thank you, Pastor. And Ron, thank you. And Miss Evelyn, thank you for being here, y'all being here tonight. Our fourth inductee being inducted posthumously is Mr. R.T. Dixie Upright. Dixie attended J.W. Cannon High School from 1940 through 1943. He was an outstanding left-handed bat and baseball hitter and played in the semi-pro baseball leagues from 1939 through 43. Due to World War II, J.W. Cannon didn't field a baseball team in that time. He served in the United States Army 1943, 44, and 45. After he was released with an honorable discharge, he played baseball in the Cabarrus City Pro Baseball League from 1945 to 1947. He signed a professional baseball contract with the Pittsburgh Pirates at the age of 21 in 1947. I want you to listen to the first 6 years of his batting averages. He played with different teams. 364, 279, 287, 262, 347, and 302. 3 of those 6 years, he was batting over 300, and the other one, the lowest one, was 262. Dixie played today, let me tell you, I'll tell you this, Mickey Mantle is in the Hall of Fame with an average of 299. Mickey Mantle was not a 300 percentage hitter, so these are numbers that can get you in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Dixie played for the Chicago White Sox minor league teams, 51 and 52. He also played baseball for the Chicago Cubs, the St. Louis Browns, the White Sox, and the Kansas City Angels in the minor league baseball league. His major league debut was April the 18th of 1953 with the St. Louis Browns. During that time, he hit his first and only home run, and he hit it off a Hall of Fame pitcher, Bob Lemon, who pitched for Cleveland and later on was the manager of the New York Yankees. In 1958, he hit 343 with 17 homers and 116 RBIs. He earned Western League All-Star team selection. His minor league 12-year career resulted in 1,327 games with 1,498 hits, again averaging over a hit a game, 141 home runs, and an average of 311 for those 12 years. He was a baseball scout for the Memphis Chickasaws from 1958 through 62. Dixie was also a leader in the community of Kannapolis with the Chamber of Commerce, the Lions Club, United Way, and many other civic organizations. But his most proud moment is that of being a member of the North Kannapolis Baptist Church, where he was a deacon and a Sunday school teacher. Governor James B. Hunt awarded him the Volunteer of the Year for North Carolina. And Dixie was married to the late Marcel Noe Upright. On November the 13th of 1986, at the age of 60, Dixie passed away. Tonight, we're here to honor and induct into the selection for the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame, Class of 2018, Dixie Upright, and his son Ken will be announced at this time to receive the award.
I'm a nephew, not a son. Dixie, by the time myself, my brother and sister came along, not being disrespectful, but he was kind of a goofy uncle. He had a nervous twitch that he would do. We'd been over to visit one Sunday afternoon. We got in the car. My grandmother was in the car talking to my dad. My mom was in the car, me and my brother and sister in the back, and I was in the middle, and I was elbowing them and doing the Dixie twitch. Looked up, I saw my dad's eyes in the rearview mirror and said, well, you better cut that out. But I thought when I got the message that the Cabarrus Sports Hall of Fame called, I just knew was the reason that someone remembered the 1976 Woodrow Wilson flag football team that was undefeated that I was a part of. But just thought I'd put that out there. It's an honor for the family. Baseball was a competitive sport, I think maybe more so then than now. They didn't have flights cross country to play games, trains and buses, sometimes maybe even cars. But we were visiting one time and my dad and Dixie were talking about baseball. And Dixie said, well, Ken, he said, who do you think was the greatest all-time baseball player? And my dad didn't hesitate, he said, Joe DiMaggio. And Dixie shook his head, no. He said, well, who? He said, Willie Mays. And they went back and forth for 15 minutes. And Dixie finally just said, but Ken, I saw him play. Well, we had all seen Willie Mays play. But they wound up in the floor doing push-ups to settle that discussion. But thank you. I'm not going to take any time because I know this one has a lot to say.
Our next group to be inducted will be a team. So before I begin the synopsis of their season, I'm going to call the team members that are present, and we have 3 that have passed away, and they have family members that are going to represent. So as I call your name, please come forward and line up right here so we can all see you. The next group team that will be inducted into the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame is the 1967-1968 Frank T. Logan High School Tiger Basketball State Champions for the state of North Carolina. I would like for the following members to please come forward. Calvin Addison, Larry Allen, Theodore Blackwelder, Michael Bost, y'all come and stand. Thank you. Larry Davis, Martin Hamilton, Jason Howie, Buford Miller, Roddy Mitchell, Ivy Posey, John Steele, Ronnie Weeks. We have 3 members of this great basketball team that have passed away. And those members are, and they have family members that are going to come up here and receive the certificate. Gregory Andrews, Jimmy Hitchcock, and Ellis Thompson. They were coached by Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame inductee, Coach Jesse Banner. Let's give them a big round of applause. This year represents the 50th anniversary of remembering the Golden Tigers. Girls, the mighty, mighty Tigers. Of Logan High School that won the state basketball championship with a 26-1 record. They would have been 27-0, but there was an altercation during the course of a game, and the game had to be stopped, and the benches were cleared and the fans, so the referees called the game, and at that point, the Tigers were behind. So they considered it a forfeit. Nobody ever beat them on the court. And y'all know how I feel about officials anyway, so hey, listen, I can see Coach Banner right now. He was stomping that foot and chasing them referees back home. But they had a great team. They advanced through the regular season undefeated and into the playoffs, beating their opponents in their division and all the way through the semifinals to get to the state championship game against Nash Central High School from Wilson, North Carolina. They won the game and they were crowned North Carolina High School Athletic Association State 3A basketball champions. Coach Banner had done a marvelous job with this group of men. Now, Hollywood could not have written a better script or a more thrilling finish to the championship game. We're going to relive this for just a moment right here. During the course of the game, it ebbed and flowed and it was back and forth. But the starring role fell on 6'5" senior Ronnie Whammy Mitchell, who grabbed the rebound and canned a follow-up shot with 3 seconds remaining on the clock. Whammy scored 39 points and was named the most valuable player of that championship game, and Logan won 81-80. Ellis Thompson, Wesley Steele, and Ivy Posey were 3 top contributors in the scoring also. But their wins were a team effort. It wasn't about 1, 2, or 3 guys like you see sometimes. It was a combination. They outscored their opponents in double digits. They scored over 100 points in several games, and the average for their 27 victories was 92.4 points a game. That is phenomenal. We've got NBA teams that can't score that many points, and they got a 24-second clock where they're firing up 3-pointers. They were led by some of the fastest point guards in North Carolina history: Jimmy Hitchcock, Theodore Blackweather, Ivy Posey, and Michael Boss. But the power forwards of Martin Hamilton, Buford Miller, John Steele, Larry Davis, Larry Allen, Calvin Addison, Greg Anders, and Ellis Thompson could not only drive and shoot, but they rebounded better than the entire opposing team. The big men in the middle of Jason Howie, Ronnie Weeks, and Ronnie Mitchell not only blocked shots, they posted up, but they could shoot anywhere in the gym and make points. Had we had the 3-point goal, they might have averaged over 150 points a game. The 1968 Golden Tigers of Logan High School were one of the most dominating and talented teams, not only of our era, but in the history of Cabarrus County in North Carolina. Several of their players went on to coach and work at schools, high schools, colleges. They enrolled in the armed forces, served our nation proudly, and became involved in businesses and organizations. They were, are, and always will be the mighty Tigers from Logan High School. It is my honor to induct this team into the 2018 Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame. Good evening for John, everybody. Good, sweetheart. Good. Thank you.
Excuse me, fellas. Stay where you are. Will Jesse Banner Jr. come up, please?
Yes, sir.
On behalf of the Logan Tigers, I want to say, this meet you.
James, wait a minute, say.
On behalf of the Logan Tigers, I want to present this picture so you can put it on the wall and think about what those guys did years ago.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You know, I didn't take a break. I didn't take a break the first 30 minutes. At this point in our program, we're going to move to some of our inductees that are present with us, and maybe, if not, they've got a family member here. But I'd like to start out with our next inductee in the class 2018, Ken Argo. Ken was a 1952 A.L. Brown graduate, outstanding again, as most athletes back in that day were three-sport athletes. Ken's attributes were in football, baseball, and track. He attended J.W. Cannon before the formation of A.L. Brown. He was the first Cabarrus County high school football player to be named National High School All-American in 1951. He was one of only 44 in the United States to receive that honor. He was selected All-South Piedmont Conference football in 1951, and also named to the Greensburg Daily News All-State team. That's in 1952, he was selected to play in the East-West All-Star game, which is still played in Greensboro. He competed in track and field and ran the sprints, the relays, specifically the 100 and 200. Ken was a starting outfielder for the baseball team from 50 through 52. He also played baseball for post 115 of the American Legion team. He was the junior class vice president at J.W. Cannon High School before they merged, and he became senior class president in 1952 of the newly formed A.L. Brown High School. He's a graduate of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and served 2 years honorably in the United States Army defending our country. He was later named to the A.L. Brown Hall of Fame. Ken served in a management position at Cannon Mills before he retired. He has been very active in community services, much like many of the men today and women that have been inducted throughout the years, specifically the United Way and the Rotarians. He serves as a deacon at First Baptist Church. At this time, it was my distinct honor to announce the induction and selection of Ken Argo into the class of 2018 Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I would like to get to what EZ said about the committee and this group. So much time is put into this organization, and you've done such a good job. Before I have a few thank yous here on this sheet of paper, but I'd like to reflect on two speakers that have been up here and what was said about my cousin, Don. You heard that he was playing fullback and they moved him to line. We have something in common there. We didn't win many games in the fall of 1950 at then J.W. Cannon High School. The main reason was they had a fullback. That was me. If you can believe that, on a high school team, at my size playing fullback, we didn't win many teams, so many games. So the next year, I was moved from fullback to tailback, where I could utilize my basically only talent that I had. I could run, and man, I did from those big guys. And I really like to see when you went around in a big guy like Easy, because you could give him a flip of the waist, and he was gone. He just couldn't keep up. So, and then someone said that he was on the Woodrow Wilson flag team. Well, it was called two-hand touch when I was at Woodrow Wilson, and I was a member of a two-hand touch football team at Woodrow Wilson. Also, speaking of size, the summer before the East-West game in Greensboro in 1952, I was invited by Frank Howard to come down to Clemson, come down to Death Valley, and try out for football. So I did. I went down and spent basically a day there, running, kicking, passing. And after the day was over, Frank called everybody in. We took off all the pads and just had our shorts on. He says, line up. And he called us all up, one by one, and weighed us. And that's when they had these weights with 3 weights on them, where you'd run them down and you'd get the weight. Well, I was in the middle of the line, and by the time I got up on my skates, Frank Howard started running the weights down. The other 2 didn't move. I didn't move. So he had to move the middle. Finally, when he got the weights down where he could read away from me, with a big chew of tobacco in his mouth, he looked at me and he said, son, you were doing good when you got on these skates. So with that, I went up to Greensboro a month later in August of 1952 and played in the East-West game. And what a joy that was. I still have friends who played in that game throughout the state. I was able to set 2 records in 1952 in the East-West game. It was only the 4th game of the East-West situation. Well, every year after that, they would post the records that were set in the East-West game in the program, right in the middle of the program. And so when it showed the records, my name was in there as a record setter. But I didn't remember, never knew how long they stood. So a couple of weeks ago, I called up there just satisfying my curiosity how long those records stood. Well, the longest run from scrimmage only lasted until next year, because that would have been the 5th year easy break. But the longest punt return lasted until 1956, 4 years. And I can just think, then, we had a couple of fellows in the state that was knocking on the door of the NFL. And we also had some fellows around the state who were outstanding quarterbacks at Duke, South Carolina, places like that. And they had set some records playing in that game. So you can just see these guys reading the program, getting to the middle section. This guy did this, he's in the NFL. This guy did this, he plays wherever. And they come to Ken Harper. Who the heck is that? And it just makes you feel pretty good to know that it lasted 4 years. And I was just very lucky to do this now. I don't want to take more than 3 minutes, but I would like to give some thanks to some people that have helped along the way. Coaches and teachers. We had a coach from the University of North Carolina that played with Charlie Justice on his team. His name was Bobby Wink. Tuck Gosher, an Air Force veteran who went to Catawba and did a lot of things as a student athlete, but in his later life, I think at one time he became the acting president of Catawba to fill in the position. The other was Ed Edmiston, who coached any sport. He coached girls basketball and coached baseball. He was just outstanding, not only in teaching, but influencing and inspiring young athletes. We call him the Young Giant. And the American Legion coaches. Marvin Watts was mentioned a few minutes ago. Thank goodness he was still coaching summer of '51, and that was a distinct pleasure playing for Marvin Watts, who took that team all the way to easy document. The teachers spent their time in the classroom, but the coaches and the teachers taught the basics of blocking, tackling, swinging the baseball bat, and the teachers taught the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. They did a good job. But not only did they coach and teach, they taught you about the basics of life, things that were coming up for us as young people needed in the life we were about to face. The teammates. Nothing could have been done without those guys up front blocking, tackling. The teammates on the baseball team. And last but not least, family, past and present. So on behalf of all those people and the goodness of this group, I proudly accept membership in the Hall of Fame.
If you're looking on your itinerary, you see the next name, and I said I'm pretty close with people that have been selected, but never have I been more proud other than when I got married to my wife 44 years ago, and the birth of my 2 children and now 5 grandchildren, than I can be tonight. I got it. The next inductee for the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2018, is Audrey Lee Smith Boston. Audrey Lee is a 1998 graduate of Concord High School, where she excelled in academics as well as athletics, playing volleyball, basketball, and softball. In women's basketball, she was a 3-year starter, scoring 1,137 points with 609 rebounds, 609 rebounds, 207 assists, and 115 steals. Her teams during that time period went to the state playoffs all 3 years, won the conference and tournament, regular season and tournament championships, and had a record of 64 wins and only 17 losses. During her time there, she was selected all Cabarrus County first team to the women's basketball team for 1996-97 and 97-98, her junior and senior year. And in 1997, she was selected as the Cabarrus County Female Basketball Player of the Year. Her senior year, she was selected all South Piedmont Conference and named Player of the Year for the South Piedmont Conference, averaging 19 points, 11 rebounds, 4 block shots, and 2 steals a game. The Charlotte Observer picks an all Piedmont team, which includes teams from all the area, and Audrey Lee was selected first team. 1998, she played in what is equivalent to the Shrine Bowl for the football players. She was the first girl from Concord High School to be selected to play in the annual North Carolina-South Carolina All-Star Basketball Classic, which started at Winthrop College and now is played at Myrtle Beach. In volleyball, she was named All-Conference her junior and senior year. She was the team captain and the most valuable player. In 4 years as a women's softball player, she was selected all 4 years, all South Piedmont Conference, and she was team captain, most valuable player her senior year. In 1997 and 98, she was selected as the female athlete for Cabarrus County. And I don't know how many of you remember, the male athlete that year was Nick Maddox, which that puts them in pretty select company as a male and female winner. As a state scholastic honor, she received the North Carolina High School Athletic Scholar Athlete 3 years in a row. She was selected to the North Carolina Governor's Scholarship Program her junior and senior year, and her senior year she received from the governor the Award for Excellence in Academics and Athletics. At CHS, she was a member of the National Honor Society and was selected to the National Who's Who. Audrey later, after graduation, attended North Carolina State University, where she graduated in 3.5 years, and she got her Bachelor of Arts degree in history. Later, as she began teaching, she followed that up with a master's from the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, and she presently serves as the Dean of Students at Bath High School. Tonight with her is her husband, Ladd, and her 3 daughters have left the building. Lily, Devin Grace, oh, Pat's over there, sorry, Doc. Devin Grace is over here, Lily's not with us, and our 6-month-old Harper Faith is with us tonight. Ron, it was a great honor to induct your daddy tonight, to make him the first father-son. Let me tell you, to have the first father-son, the daughter, father, is a great honor. So tonight, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to announce the selection of Audrey Lee Smith Boston to the class of 2018. Y'all just have to be patient with me because I'm going to stand here.
Oh, yeah. I don't know who's more proud, me being introduced by him and being able to introduce me. So, first of all, I want to thank the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame Nomination and Selection Committee. This is a very prestigious honor. I'm in elite company. I'm very humble, which, you know, runs in the family along with small egos. Growing up, we had 3 rules in our house. Keep Jesus in your heart. Don't ever wear green, even on St. Patrick's Day. And play sports. Instead of working, my brother and I were told, your job will be make good grades and play sports. So my parents are the first people I really want to thank. You all know my father, my mother back there, who's got my baby. If I could give anything back to this world, it would be that everybody had parents like them. I am who I am because of their influence today. My husband, Ladd Boss, who I'm very proud of, is sitting here with me today. Lily, our 11-year-old, decided she wanted to do some glow stick party, which I'm not mad at her for that. Devin Grace is over there, hiding, and Harper Faith, like I said, my mom had. I had amazing youth coaches all the way through the Boys Club, which is where I started, middle school, throughout high school, amazing coaches and amazing teachers. One thing I would like to say is that sports teaches you teamwork. It teaches you empathy. It teaches you to care about other people and to put a whole before their self. And I strongly suggest that if you have the opportunity to influence anyone in your life, that you get them into sports, get them into activities so they're not doing nothing sitting at home. As an educator for 17 years now, the children that are involved in sports and involved in activities have a step ahead of everybody else. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you for this opportunity and this award.
Thank God she looks like her mama and studied like her mama. and she's got a little bit of my attitude, but we're very proud of her. Our next inductee, I may get just as emotional as I did when I had the pleasure of last year inducting Coach Bob Boswell and previously Coach Ron Massey. Bruce Hart is one of the pioneers that brought football not only to Cabarrus County and A.L. Brown, but he brought it to the state of North Carolina and nationally. Our next inductee, Bruce Carton, was a 1962 graduate of Chase High School. From 1989 through 1999, Bruce was the head football coach and athletic director of the A.L. Brown Wonders. During this time period, not only did he win 2 state championships in 89 and 97, but one footnote that people may not know, the 11 years that Bruce was there, he and I played for the conference championship 11 consecutive years. Now that's something to be said, because next Friday night, the Concord Kannapolis game, they're playing for bragging rights. Both of them are having a little bit of a different season, but I know we're all going to go and support our specific team. Bruce brought an atmosphere to A.L. Brown that changed all of the coaches he coached against. During his time there, he won 121 games, only lost 24, and 8 conference championships. Bruce was selected in 1996 as the head coach of the North Carolina Shrine Bowl, where he had previously in 91 been an assistant coach. And prior to that, in 1988, he was an assistant coach in the East-West, or head coach, excuse me, at the East-West All-Star game in Greensboro. In 1997, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association named him Coach of the Year, and in 99, they named him the Athletic Director of the Year. His achievements reached far beyond his coaching days at A.L. Brown. His high school teams over the years he has coached won 332 games with 110 losses. And he had stops not only in A.L. Brown, but Olympic, Harding, West Charlotte, Providence, and Marvin Ridge, and Providence Day. Under his leadership, they made 24 state playoff games, winning 3 championships, 17 conference championships, and was runner-up 3 times in the state finals. Let me just stop and tell you, Bruce and I coached in that day where they only took 1 team. Many of you know, in 1995, he beat us down here in a rainstorm 5-0. We were ranked #1 in the state, undefeated. And they went to the playoffs, and I was 9-1, sat at home. So when I say 24 times in the state playoffs, and you only take 1 team, it's different than when you're 4-7 and get to go today, trust me. Coach Hardin spent a lot of time also at the collegiate level coaching at the Citadel and the United States Military Academy, which is better known as West Point. He is a member of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association Hall of Fame and also of the Athletic Directors Hall of Fame. He has 2 sons, Justin and Blair, who are here tonight, who are very successful coaches in their own right. And what Bruce and I are hoping one day they'll get a big college job and hire us to be their get-back coaches and pay us 6 figures. Before I announce this, I want to tell you what happened to me with A.L. Brown football from 1980 through 2009. When Coach Boswell came, Bob was a lot like me. He wanted to punch you in the mouth and run over you. But if you want to see A.L. Brown pass from 1976 to 1988, you better come to pregame warm-ups, because they just lined up and kicked you in the mouth. When Bruce came in 1989, Bruce spread the field, ran the counter trade, bootlegs, and threw the ball bing, bing, bing everywhere. So Bruce made me change as a coach, and I give him and Bob and Ron Massey great credit for any success I had, because as Bob told me one time, you either get as good start complaining like everybody else because we're going to kick you in the butt every time we play. Bruce brought that, and then Ron continued that, and like is today. That tradition was long-standing back from the 50s. But you can attribute to Bruce Hart bringing that program to the forefront for the state of North Carolina with state championships. Not only did he make me better, but he made a lot of other people better. And it is my honor to introduce my dear friend, my coaching colleague, and somebody that I truly trust, Coach Bruce Hart, into the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash. I love the way he does that. Stand up and do this. That's so neat. That's a tough father-daughter act to follow right there. But it's an honor to be recognized by Cabarrus County because this community was so unique and kind to my family during the time we were here, the 11 years, and learned a lot of valuable lessons from people. Got to know some of the people who I referred to as salt of the earth people, and that's how I refer to people in Cabarrus County. When I received a letter in the hall that day, I went out in the backyard because I'm kind of retired now. I do the housework. And I said, what if I went back to Cabarrus County or A.L. Brown today? What would I see? Of course, tradition, because that's full of it. And Coach talked about playing 11 straight years for the conference championship, but I've told many people, especially young coaches, in those 11 football games, as an athletic director, the principal never had to call me and say, Coach, there's an incident in the parking lot, there's an incident with the players, there's an incident with fans. That game was played on the field, and when it was over, it was over. And I'm so proud of that. The administrators in Cabarrus County, they really conducted top-notch schools. The teachers were so professional, and they were there for kids. Like Ken said, they were there to teach. And as an administrator, I could walk down the hall and I could tell some good teaching was going on. And I think that would happen today. The coaches were exceptional. They not only taught sports, sportsmanship, football and whatever, and all the sports. They were professional in what they did. And a lot of the coaches I had, like Glenn Cooks here tonight, a lot of those coaches, Bill Watts, they could have been head football coaches at other places. But they loved the tradition and they loved the program and they stayed. When I was coaching at West Point, my 3rd year, Paul Johnson was a Navy coach, and he's from Black Mountain, North Carolina. And I grew up in Forest City. And in New York, a sports reporter came up to me and said, what's it like playing against Navy here in Lincoln Stadium with Paul Johnson, you know, not too far from where you grew up? I said, it's a lot like the Battle of the Bell. He looked at me and I said, that's Kannapolis and Concord game right there. My huddle is getting bigger. I am so proud of my sons for what they become, what they teach, because they work with young people, and I'm so proud of them right there. They have beautiful families, they have their wives. Justin is married to Lindsay, Blair to Erica, and they're fine people. I have one granddaughter who I'm so proud of. I hope all of you get to see her tonight. She has the most beautiful smile. She's my rainbow. And I got another one coming in February, so that's good. I have a wonderful cousin and his wife, David Matheny. In fact, are here tonight. David and I We played together growing up, and he was kind of like my brother. And now I have a neighbor in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, who's, if you hear anybody in the back of the room holler, "Roll Tide," he's an Alabama guy. His name is Keith Cannon. He's like a brother to me down there. So my huddle has gotten really bigger right here. In 1972, I was a young coach, and I went to my first national convention. And the head coach at Bruce said, "I want you to go to some of these classes and learn punt protection, kickoff coverage, because we don't have but about 30 players, and we need to be really good in the kicking game." That was 1972. So I looked at the little calendar, I went to the class, and as a coach at Denison College, I think it's somewhere in Ohio. Well, in 1972, Southern California won the national championship. Their coach was John McKay. Most of you know Coach, you know who he is. I walk in there, and about 5,000 coaches went to the convention that year. And there were about 30 coaches sitting in there. John McKay came in, sat on the front row. Everybody recognized him, and he took notes. The whole hour session right there. Boy, did that make an impression on me. And that's why I developed the motto that day, "I'm still learning." Not just from Michelangelo, who said it on a piece of work that he did right there. But that's really important to continue. That's what I've enjoyed about football, is you learn something every year, and you learn something from everybody you're around right here. I have a very supportive wife, Bev. She worked here for a few years, and now she runs an orphanage in Charleston. And what she does for those kids, they come in sometimes in the middle of the night with nothing but the clothes on their back, from very abusive families. And boy, just to see her love for those kids and love for people and support for me, I don't know how she does it all, but I do have a wonderful family. One quick story. Bill Watts, you'll appreciate this. One of my old coaches, he called me on the phone. He said, "Coach," he said, "I need you to come over to the house." I said, "I have a killer jigsaw puzzle, and I can't get it started." I said, "Well, what's it look like? What's on the box of the jigsaw puzzle?" He said, "It looks like a rooster." A rooster? I said, "Okay, I'll come on over." So I went over, and he let me in and sat down. I looked at it. I said, "I don't believe we can handle this." I said, "Why don't we just get a cup of coffee and think about it, and when we get through, we'll put all the cornflakes back in the box." So that's what happens to you, Coach, when you get out of coaching. I like to tell stories. And I'll be honest with you, because I've had to be honest with myself. It's hard to go from 60 miles an hour in your life coaching to 0. And now to have friends, play golf with people that you really enjoy and talk about family, good times. I used to call Jim Taylor at Shelby those last few years at A.L. Brown. We never talked football, we talked about our health. But really, I want to say that it was a wonderful experience coaching, but it really fulfilled my life. But the men and players and students that I had the chance to work with enriched my life. It really did. You've heard of the Mike Wardens and the Maurice Blakeney's and the Nick Maddox, and I could stand here and go on and on and on, and even talk about my own sons all night and what they did. But I've had a wonderful experience. I've enjoyed it, and I really appreciate this. And Cabarrus County, this is very special, and I thank you.
There you go, Bruce.
As Bruce is going back, I want to tell one quick story on it, and this is a good one. So I go to Forest Hill United Methodist Church, we don't just sell hot dogs on Friday. We make a lot of money, but it's a big one up here on the corner. And so I was going to church. Bruce had become the head football coach at Kannapolis, And we start Sunday school about 10 o'clock, so I get there about 9:45. And I pull up right in front of the church, and I look, and there's Coach Hart. Well, that's back when St. James Catholic Church was right beside us, and all that separated us was 2 driveways. And I said, "Good morning, Coach, how are you?" And he said, "Good morning, easy." And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, you know, I'm down here, we're Catholic, we're doing this, we're doing that." I said, "Well, that's great." So we stood there and talked for a few minutes, and he goes into Mass, and I go into Sunday school. It's not, I mean, we do this Sunday after Sunday, and I forget how many Sundays he was having to come during that time. All of a sudden, I got people calling me, "What are you and Coach Harden doing in a meeting before church?" And I was like, "We're praying for all the people in Concord and Kannapolis' souls." And they actually thought that Bruce and I totally hated, despised, and wouldn't look at each other. Now, I'll be honest, and I think Bruce would be honest, and anybody that's ever coached or played in that game, during that time frame of that week, you are the mortal enemy. But as Bruce so eloquently said, when that game was over, we shook hands, hugged, and we went either to the playoffs or we took up equipment. It was a bond between the Hatfields and the McCoys, but it didn't get quite that bad. But I really relished those times that Bruce and I had together, where we were able to kind of have the community see us, and we weren't the dreaded, hated enemy. I said, we do have another part of our life. So Bruce, thank you for that. Thank you for your friendship. Our next inductee for the class of 2018 is Brenda Thompson Helms. Brenda was a 1958 A.L. Brown graduate and an outstanding ladies basketball star for the Wonders from 1955 through the 1958 season. She started as a sophomore, and I want you to listen to some of the scores she had that would be envious of any of us that have ever played basketball. She scored 32, 30, 25, 25, 22, and averaged double figures for 11 games. Her junior year, she led the Wonderettes. They're the Lady Wonders now, or the Lady Spiders, but back then we were the Spiderettes and the Wonderettes and the Tigerettes and whateverettes we were, to a 15-8 record. She posted high scores of 61, 48, 47, 46, 42, 42, and 40. There's some people in the NBA that have never scored that many in their career. She scored double figures 21 games, was selected All-Conference and All-South Piedmont Tournament, and held the scoring record for 3 games of 132 points. She was selected, as I said, to All-Conference and All-Tournament. Her senior year, she led the Wonderettes to a 20-2 record, finishing undefeated in the South Piedmont Conference with a 14-0 record. The team won the conference tournament championship, and again, the Western North Carolina High School Athletic Association championship, defeating Hickory 60-46. She was the team captain and the most valuable player. She set a South Piedmont scoring record, and I'm sure it has not been broken, of 82 points in one game against Albemarle. She also scored 54, 50, 47, 46, 46, 45, 43, and 37, averaging double figures for 21 games. She was the top scorer in the South Piedmont Conference with 518 points, and she finished the season of 58 with over 800 points and averaging 37 points a game. She was selected again to All-Conference and All-Tournament. She played in the 1958 East-West All-Star Game ladies team. Brenda retired from the Bank of America in 2005. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to select and bring into induction Brenda Thompson Helms to the class of 2018. believe she can still post up. You better be careful.
It was truly an honor to be here tonight. Back in the spring, I was surprised and sort of flabbergasted when Ray Clark called and asked me if I would like to be nominated for the Hall of Fame. And we talked a little while and he sent me the application. But along with that application, he sent a list of stuff. Excuse me. I think he had every game I ever played in high school. He had the dates, he had the teams, he had the winners, and he had the losers. But and I was thinking, where in the world did he get all this stuff? Because that was a lot. I mean, a lot of stuff. But basketball was the highlight of my high school years, and I enjoyed every minute of it. My senior year, I think we won everything, and I don't believe there was a statewide championship back then. But I played for a coach at Michigan, somebody had mentioned, and we had a fantastic team. We had Jay Bullock and Cookie Alexander and Liv Duncan and Phyllis Holler and Carol Scarborough. That was the extent of it, but I had a chance to play one more game when I was asked to play in the East-West game. And of course that was for girls all over the state, from everywhere. And I was on the West team. And the West team won by 5. I really appreciate this honor. And thank you for this incredible thing.
Our next group to be inducted is another team, so I'm going to call the team members. If you're present, please come forward. At this time, it is my pleasure to announce the induction of the 1971 Northwest Cabarrus High School baseball team. They won the state championship and the conference championship. I would like for the following members to come, as we did with the Logan team, and please line up across the front. Merle Benson, Mickey Coral, Gary Marshall, Ronnie Miller, Mike White, Sammy Bober, Mike Glass, George Marshall, Ronnie Newsom, Rick Wilkerson, Alton Caldwell, Russ Hartzell, Gerald Marshall, Rick Sloop, Bill Weinkoff, Joe Compton, Jeff Holcomb, Denny McEnulty, Barry Troutman. I believe I got everybody there. I hope I didn't miss anybody. They were coached by Coach Bernie Edwards and Dennis Shin. If they will come forward so we can recognize them. Where is Miss Edwards? Coach Shin, is Dennis Shin here? Please come up, Coach. Don't go get nothing to eat yet. Y'all get to be at the forefront.
You ever walk behind the camera?
Somebody. We had a few members on this team that passed away that were great players, and I want to put one little other thing in. Several of these guys and I played along with Scott Berger on the American Legion Post 51 team, And a lot of our success was due to Bernie and Neil Alton coaching us and the North Northwest baseball team, along with Mount Pleasant, Concord, and Central, and Kannapolis. I'd like to read you the accolades for this team. The 1971 Northwest Cabarrus High School baseball team became the first baseball team from the school and the first team from Cabarrus County to win the North Carolina High School Athletic Association State Championship. Now I'm going to stop right there because Kannapolis had won several Western North Carolina when we seceded from that organization. We adopted back, and the Rocky River was a part of that, but the South Piedmont was not. This team won the Rocky River Baseball Conference Championship, going undefeated during the regular season with a 13-0 record. They were coached by the Cabarrus County School Sports Hall of Fame coach Bernie Edwards, who Ms. Edwards is with us tonight representing the coach. And it featured not only timely hitting, great base running, excellent fielding, great pitching, and marvelous coaching that enabled them to move into the state playoffs. And again, this is when only one team wins, and it's winner take all. In their first game, the Trojans defeated Fayetteville 71st by a score of 6-1. The game was played at night, and this was the first night game for the Trojans. In the second playoff game, they played Scotland County, who was 15-1, and they won 10-3. The third playoff game was against an undefeated South Johnson team that was 19-0, played in Laurinburg. The 4-3 victory allowed the Trojans to move on to the state 3A championship game. The baseball championship series was a winner-take-all, 2 out of 3, much like it is today. They played the game at Webb Field. Northwest had to play Yadkin County's Forbush Falcons for the state championship, and it began on June the 4th with the Trojans beating them 5-0 in the first game. 2 days later, on June the 6th, against Forbush, the Trojans were able to secure only 1 hit. However, they scored what proved to be the winning run in the bottom of the 6th by getting 2 walks followed by a single to right field for the game's only run, winning the game 1-0. Sounds familiar as Logan's team won on a last-second basket. The Northwest Cabarrus Trojan baseball team had now won the North Carolina 3A state championship along with the Rocky River State Conference championship. They went undefeated 18-0. And they were led, as I said, by great players. They produced one of the all-time best baseball teams here in the state of North Carolina and especially in Cabarrus County. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce the members of the 1971 Northwest Cabarrus High School Trojans State 3A Championship baseball team. Several that I consider dear friends. At this time, please let's give them a round of applause. I told the next inductee the reason he's in the Hall of Fame is because of his games against Concord High School. The next inductee is Tracy Johnson. I'll say some of that for Friday night. Tracy was a 1985 A.O. Brown High School graduate, an outstanding 2-star sport, all-conference letterman in football and in track and field. During his time in Annapolis, he was part of a 1-2 punch that Coach Boswell had with him at fullback and linebacker and James Lott at tailback. They ran through the conference that year, winning the conference championship and all the way through the playoffs to the state championship. They finished that season 13-1 as runner-ups. During his senior season, he scored 19 touchdowns for 114 points and gained 732 yards. He was named All-South Piedmont Conference, All-Cabarrus County, All-Piedmont for the Charlotte Observer, and selected All-State by the Greensboro Daily News, which is a distinct honor that they only pick 25 players. Tracy, in 1985, was selected to play in the North Carolina East-West All-Star Game played annually in Greensboro. He was offered and accepted a full scholarship to Clemson University, where he played 4 years for the Tigers. From 1985 through 1989, Tracy played fullback, leading the team to 4 bowl appearances. He set a Clemson touchdown rushing record in the bowl game against Penn State with 3 touchdowns in a 35-10 victory in the 1987 Florida Citrus Bowl game. After his college career ended, he was drafted by the Houston Oilers in the 1989 NFL Draft. Tracy played 8 full seasons in the NFL with the Oilers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tonight, Tracy is represented by his lovely wife, Stephanie, and their sons, Jalen, Miles, Devin, and Dash. After retirement from the NFL, Tracy and Stephanie started their own business and own and operate clothing manufacturing in Duluth, Georgia. It is my distinct honor and privilege to include into induction to the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame a true A.L. Brown wonder and a great player that we all enjoyed watching, Tracy Johnson.
Coach, I'm going to restore quite a bit of time back to you. In that the good Lord gave me the ability to great opportunity, not time for me. I am truly honored and humbled by this recognition. I've never expected anything of this nature, but I am truly thankful once again. I'd like to thank Stephanie, my sons, Jalen, Miles, Dash, my brothers and my nieces, and Jamie, I see you back there. I thank you for attending and supporting me. I would like to say that all of my achievements on the gridiron could not have been accomplished alone. God gave me athletic ability and He truly blessed me with great coaches, great teammates, and a great community. And I just want to leave it at that. And thank you very, very much.
It was a pleasure to watch play on both sides of the football. My only problem is when he came from Kings Mountain, I wish he would have come to Concord. Of course, if he was the size he is now, he'd probably have to play offensive guard, wouldn't he, Bruce? We'd probably put him in nose guard, and his career would have been defunct. Our next inductee in the class of 2018 is Kenneth A. Moser. Ken was a 1960 Mount Pleasant graduate where he was a three-sport star athlete for the Tigers. He played football, basketball, and baseball 1957 to 1960. In 1959, he was the captain of the football team and received all Cabarrus County and all area honors to go along with their season. In basketball, Ken led the team in scoring and led the conference as well. He was named to the all-conference basketball team for 1959-1960, and he was also a co-captain for their basketball team. Ken played baseball as well, 58 through 60, and played for Concord Post 51 American Legion team those years. In addition to being an outstanding pitcher, he played first base at Mount Pleasant and for Post 51. His Post 51 American Legion team was coached by Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame member B. Long. Ken played his freshman year on the basketball team at Wake Forest University during the 1960-61 season and was also a member of the cross-country team that year. He was president of the freshman class during 1960-61. In 1965, he graduated from Wake Forest University and he was president of the senior class. He received his Bachelor of Arts degree from Wake Forest, and then in 1968, he received his Juris Doctorate as a member of the Wake Forest School of Law. His civic contributions include being a member of the Wake Forest University Law School Alumni Council, the Board of Visitors for Wake Forest University, the Salvation Army Boys Club of Winston-Salem, the Winston-Salem Forsyth County United Way, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and the Arts Council, as well as many other organizations. Ken married Mary Nam Moser, and they have sons Kelly, John, and a daughter Ashley. Ken is the former partner in a law firm of Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge, and Rice in Winston-Salem. After 43 years of practicing law, Ken retired in 2012. At this time, it is my honor and privilege to induct Ken Moser to the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame Class of 2000.
An honor for me to be here. You know, I'm about as nervous as I was when I was trying to pitch to, or maybe it was around, Harry Mills in high school and American Legion baseball. He hit the longest ball off of me as a pitcher I believe I have ever seen. Fortunately, it was to straightaway center field, as I recall. Again, I want to thank the committee for my selection. I'm so grateful. It's a tremendous honor and a highlight of my life. I have always loved sports, all sports. I was always seeking one in which I could achieve greatness. I tried virtually all of them: football, basketball, baseball, softball, tennis, golf, cross country, bowling, volleyball, table tennis, badminton, and even horseshoes, and I never found them. I didn't include billiards or pool because my college roommate, who's like a brother to me and who is here tonight, used to just beat me like a drum at pool. And I like to kid him about that and say it was because of some misspent youth he had. Again, as I said, I never found my sport, but I will say modestly, I hope, that I did find some level of proficiency in and love all of the ones that I tried. This honor does not prove that I was successful in my search, but it does go far to validate my efforts. I was so fortunate to have good coaches, teachers, and mentors and friends growing up. Please bear with me while I mention a few. My wonderful 8th grade teacher, Miss Emma Crow, who once pulled me aside and told me that I had a good mind, and for goodness sakes, use it. My high school and college coaches, Arden Ray, who's a member, I believe, of the whole thing, Charlie Harrell, Morgan Walker, Bill Jordan, and Jackie Murdoch. My older brother, now deceased, who could not play sports because of a disability at birth, but who was a wonderful and huge factor in my life. He preceded me at Wake Forest and once lovingly told me that my future was not in sports. I hope it was lovely. It was not in sports, but in my education. And that if I didn't work hard at Wake Forest, I might very well flunk out. And by the way, somewhere along the line, Mr. Smith, you mentioned that I was president of my freshman class. That was not the case because I was so busy trying to keep my head above water and prove my brother wrong. So I didn't have time to, or even thought about running for an office at that time. But I don't know if I put that or gave that to the committee or not. If I did, I apologize. My sister Joyce, who is here tonight, and was a good athlete in her own right. She was all-conference in basketball for Mount Pleasant in 1957 and competed against the Brumsey sisters, or the Brumsey sisters. And she always challenged me to games of force and was a big influence on my basketball career. I don't remember whether she would win most or I won most, and maybe it's because I'm not willing to say that. My American Legion coach, Beetle Alton, who honored me with one of 2 trophies awarded by the team my last year there. I wanted the most valuable player. But as it seemed to always be the case, I got the Sportsmanship Award. I was still honored for it. Of course, my deceased parents, who encouraged my siblings and me to read, and to get educations. They couldn't afford to send us, but always did the best they could. My brother received his doctorate degree in history from the University of Wisconsin. My sister received her master's degree in nursing from the Medical College of Georgia, and I was lucky enough to graduate and receive my law degree. I have to mention, pray and praise and thank my wonderful family, most of whom, or many of whom, are here tonight. My wife of over 52 years, Mary Ann, who has always been the love of my life and the backbone of the family. My children, all here tonight. Daughter, not son, Kelly, an excellent mother and attorney. Daughter Ashley, a wonderful educator and mother. And my best male friend, my son John Kenneth, an exceptional trial attorney. And Ashley's husband is also here today, and we're very, very proud of him. He is a wonderful orthopedic surgeon in Winston-Salem and an outstanding surgeon at that. Mary Ann and I have 9 grandchildren, 6 of whom are here with us tonight. And I would appreciate it if you would allow me to ask all of them, along with my wife and my sister, to please stand so I can tell them that I love them. They mean the world to me and to Mary Ann, and we are blessed. I mentioned my college roommate, Tom Faust, his lovely wife, Becca. I think even one of my classmates from Wake Forest is here, Carol Grady, and her wonderful husband, Tom. And I appreciate that very, very much. And I cannot thank all of you enough. And I am truly honored and very appreciative. Thank you very, very much.
Ken, I was going to tell you, as John Wayne said, when the legend becomes fact about the freshman class, bring the legend. So that's what we're going to study. That's what we're going to do. Our next inductee is James Clary Phillips to the class of 2018. Clary attended Concord High School from 1948 to 1950. He joined the Coast Guard during the Korean War and served until 1954. And after serving our country, he returned to complete his education and graduated in 1957 from the Concord High School. In 1949, Clary played on the Concord Boys Club North Carolina State Championship, a 125-pound football team. Now, I wanted to ask him how old he was, because when I was 6, I was paid 125, and they wouldn't let me play more than 1 year. So, I'm going to ask him after the show how old he was, because I was 6 at 125. He joined the Boys Club boxing team in 1948 and boxed for the team through the 1950 year. He began as a 98-pound flyweight and later moved up to a 112-pound bantamweight. He won the Junior Flyweight Golden Gloves Championship in Burlington in 1949. He then won the main event as the flyweight in the Polio Drive Benefits fight event of 1950 here in Concord. In 1950, he was invited to spend the summer training with the United States Marine Corps boxing team at Camp Lejeune. But the Korean War interrupted that opportunity. Clary was runner-up in the North Carolina-South Carolina Open Division 112-pound champion in 1964 in the North Carolina Golden Gloves tournament. He was invited back in 1964 to the tournament in Charlotte, but a head cut injury caused by a headbutt of another fighter in a previous fight didn't heal in time and prevented him from boxing. Clary fought his first formal fight when he was 14 years old and fought his last fight in 1964 when he was 29. For his career, Clary finished with an 18-win and only 2-loss record and several championships. He is a member of the St. James Lutheran Church here in Concord and has been active in the church choir for over 40 years. Clary also acted in our old courthouse theater here in Concord for 10 seasons. He served 1 season on the board of directors and won a Best Actors Award. Presently, he sings with the Piedmont Choral Society and has been a member of that organization for the past 10 years. He is married to Rebecca Becky Linker Phillips, has a daughter, Anne Michelle Phillips Swaney, a son, James Michael Phillips, and 2 grandsons, Elias Jordan and Dylan Tyler. Clary attended Appalachian State Teachers College and Queens College. At this time, it is my honor to introduce for induction to the class of 2018 the Harris County Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. James Clary Phillips.
I want to thank you all for being here. And I want to thank the Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame for inducting me. It's the greatest honor I've ever received. Also, I want to thank Bill Blanton for nominating me. And I must remember the boys, but that's where it all started for me. I thought most of my colors, most of my fights are the colors of the boys. I want to remember some people back there, Barry, athletic director, and Richard Ed was the coach. And the 1948 boxing team, there's only 3 survivors left. Lewis Thomason and Roy Ellington and myself. Those days were exciting. They were. Boxing teams kept all day for the Golden Gloves tournaments. Charlotte, Kannapolis, Mount Holly, Court Concord. The Marine Corps brought 2 separate teams in, Camp Virginia, and those tournaments were held at the old Armory here in Concord. 3 nights of fisting contact, much excitement, seeing other signs of revival. Gone with the wind. Thank you.
Next inductee for the class of 2018 almost needs no introduction in Cabarrus County or in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg region. Her name is Talanda Rose Simmons. She's a 1985 graduate of A.L. Brown High School, where she played basketball for the Lady Wonders from 1982 through 1985. She was a starting forward as a sophomore on that 82-83 team. During the next season, she was selected All-South Piedmont Conference with the girls basketball team, and also selected to the 5-player All-District 5 girls basketball team. That means there's only 5 players in the district. There's not first, second, and third team. There was only 5. She was also co-captain of the girls team and the most valuable player. As a senior in 1985, the Wonders, the Lady Wonders, won the South Piedmont Conference regular season tournament with a 16-0 record. Talanda was selected as A.L. Brown's girls' most valuable player and selected all-conference again. She enrolled in the University of North Carolina, Charlotte in 1985, and she played college basketball for the 49ers, graduating in 1989. In 1987, she was a starting forward for the Athletes in Action at the 1987 United States Olympic Festival. After graduating from UNC Charlotte, she spent the next 4 years as the women's basketball coach here in Concord at Barber Scotia College. She returned in 1993 to UNC Charlotte as the assistant women's basketball coach and recruiting coordinator for the Lady 49ers. In 2001, she became the assistant women's basketball coach at Winthrop University and was there through the 2003 season. Then in 2006 through 2008, she was the assistant women's basketball coach at Providence Day and during their 2 state title seasons. Talanda became the head women's basketball coach here in Concord at Hickory Ridge High School for the Lady Bulls in 2012. Under Coach Simmons' leadership, the Lady Bulls became a force in not only the conference, but in 2017, they won the conference and tournament championship and made their way to the state finals. Their final record was 31-0, even though they lost to Northern Guilford. They had one of the most successful seasons in women's basketball history. In 2018, Hickory Ridge was assigned to the Southwestern 4A Conference, moving from 3A to 4A. Again, under her leadership, they had an excellent season, going 26-2, winning the conference, and lost in the quarterfinals of the state 4A championships. Probably the most proud thing that I read in her resume, and as Andy and I were putting this together, was what she did in 2013. Tawanda established, in memory of her late brother Todd Cabarrus, in October of 2012, a Be the Match drive, which is a drive that requests all of us to sign up for bone marrow testing to fight leukemia. And this match nationwide can help with not only leukemia, but with lymphoma and sickle cell anemia. You see, as many of the inductees today, Tawanda is not just an athlete. She wasn't just a student. She's not just a coach. She's a leader in the community in our fight, in our world today, to save those that are not as fortunate as we are. Tonight, I watched her play as a young teenager. I watched her in college. But tonight gives me great pleasure, Tawanda, to announce your selection into our Cabarrus County Sports Hall of Fame for the Classic.
Good evening. As some of you may have to do today, I have to do that extra assistance. As I stand before you today, very humble and blessed, I'd just like to say thank you to the Lord of my Savior, Jesus Christ, for this moment. I'd like to thank the Boys and Girls Club, the committee, for voting me in to this prestigious award, with a special thanks to Richard Clark, Dane Laney, William Andrews, and a special person to me and my family, Mr. James Fleming Sr. There's been many that have played a role in this award today, and I would just like to take a moment to recognize them. Starting first off with my parents, Tola and Lillian Rose. If you guys want to know what 57 years looks like together, December 22nd, that will be 57 years for Mom and Dad. As Coach alluded to, my brother Todd, we lost him back in 2012, but also back in the back, my oldest brother Tola Rose, the third with his two children. My husband, Malcolm Simmons, and Jillian Simmons, my daughter, who's 9. Malcolm's at Hickory Ridge now. Malcolm's my official scorekeeper. My first year I started out with a student, and for some of my intensity levels, I think it works out better having an adult and having him there. So when I need to never score on fouls, he may get yelled at, but it's not taken personally. And then for my daughter Jillian, facility with the Boys and Girls Club, my official, unofficial assistant coach. They're not here tonight, but I just want to name a couple people. Basically, my coaches, one goes way back to when I was at Aycock Elementary School and playing at the YMCA in Kannapolis. Jill Cranshaw, one of the 3rd and 4th grade coaches there. As I moved along to middle school and in the high school, I played for Donna Morris. To the community, that's a name that you guys may want to, or we may want to all get together on and look at. But Donna coached me from 8th grade all the way through 12th grade, 5 years. And there were several of us, I think about 5 of us, that played together all 5 years. So we created a lot of memories. And one of the special things back then, and some of the coaches that are here can remember, back in the day, it was Time Warner Sports. Time Warner Sports would come out and film the high school games. And so on Sunday nights, for basketball, they would go back and replay those games. And you can think about being a high school student athlete and then being able to see yourself on TV. Well, one of the things that Donna Morris did and her parents, they would have the team number every Sunday night. And we'd go in and either have some dinner or some snacks. But then, just like now as a coach, you go in and you have film session. Well, we would have film session. But we literally were watching ourselves on TV with everybody else throughout the county. So those were some special times that we have to remember. And then from there, going on to Charlotte, playing for Cindy Conley for 3 years, who recruited me to come to Charlotte. And then my senior year, Ed Baldwin. Ed Baldwin came in my senior year from NC State, played for KI. So when I left Charlotte and I came here to Nova Scotia, just around the corner, a gentleman by the name of Anthony Owen took a chance on me. See, I was supposed to come in and be the assistant, and some things happened where it put me in a position to become the head coach. So I literally went from the playing floor to the sidelines, and had some great experiences there, and I thank Coach Owen for taking that chance on me. As far as right now at Hebrew Ridge, for different reasons they weren't able to be here tonight, but I have some special people that work with me. Kim Miller, who was one of my players here at Nova Scotia, is now one of my assistant coaches. Anthony McVeigh, who played on the men's team at Nova Scotia, I was also a sports information director, so I used to write about him, is now one of my assistant coaches. And then Monica Paxton. Monica Paxton I got to know when she first came to UNC Charlotte as a camper. So things have gone really well. I've had some special people come into my life and play a role. And one of the things that I try to pass on to everyone else, as my parents passed on to me, my team was before you right now, when you said, what is the one word that you cannot say? They would all say in unison, we don't use the word can't. And that came from my mother, who taught in Cabarrus County Schools for over 31 years. You gotta always try. And so my young ladies know that, whether it's on the basketball court or in the classroom, you have to always try. I want to say again, congratulations to all the other inductees, and thank you so much to the committee for this great honor. I would be remiss, I need to say one more, and I'm sorry, but there's a young lady that's standing in the back who God has put in my life and who at times acts like an older sister to me. Her name is Paula McMahon. Paula's back there with her husband Steve. She can't believe I'm saying this right now, but you gotta know, I spent 2 years over at Concord Middle School. She took a picture of me and my daughter when she was 1 year old. She didn't realize, and I didn't realize 2 years later, I'd be coaching her daughter once I got to the high school. Laura McMahon. Laura went to the high school and is now playing at Roanoke College. But the thing about it, and as you get to know people, but you go on first impressions. And one of the first impressions was that she took a picture of my daughter at 1, walking over to the ball rack, putting it back on the rack. And then 2, when we lost my brother in 2012, she showed up at funeral. She showed up at pretty much my team that I didn't know that year, because that was my first year at Hickory Ridge, they all showed up. So I know she was instrumental in making it happen, and for the many positive things that have happened since then, Paul has always been there. When we do our Be the Match, and we have our Be the Match night, Paul is the one that helps me set everything up. Paul is the one that makes sure Mom is where she needs to be, and we have whatever we need as far as the swabs and the way that that is set up. And take just a moment. If any of you have ever thought about it, it takes literally like 1 minute. It takes you 2 minutes to fill out a piece of paperwork and 1 minute to swab your cheeks. You seal it up and send it off, and you're on the national register. We've had 2 individuals come out of Harrisburg with opportunities to go and help someone, and I truly want everybody in here to think about it. There is an age limit on there. I believe it's 45 that you can age out, but something to consider as we don't know when and where. But I stand before you again, thank the community, and thank you all for this evening.
My part of the program is closed, but I would be remiss without saying, again, I would like to thank the committee, the selection nominating committee, for the number of people they inducted into teams. I'd like to thank you for your patience and understanding. We've been in here a little over 2 hours and 10 minutes on my part, but it's 4 hours less than the NFL Hall of Fame ceremony. So I think I would do that positively. I appreciate your attendance. Congratulations to the inductees, the former and present Hall of Fame members, and those that will come in the future. I thank you very much, and at this time I'd like to turn it over to our chairperson, Mr. Tolman.
I would like to thank you all for coming tonight. There is refreshments available, and I'm sure that everybody would like to stand up and stretch and have a good evening and a safe return to your home. And we'll see you next year.
It would bug you while you was working. Oh, that's You're good. You're absolute no. All right, how are you? Morning.